A blessed morning, everyone. Welcome to the Speak the Truth in Love Ministry with Miss Veronica Benedictio on this Thursday, July 2026. And this morning, I want to share something with the younger generation. Abantu abato mu mulembe guno abamaze okusoma, abantu abamaliriza okusoma, abantu abata like abali ku university, and you are in that stage of life, because I believe at times we need to share these things with one another. Ngawe ngamba abantu ku channel ne channel bagita Speak the Truth in Love, where I share about different things. Ante omulamwa gwange this morning is quit trusting in connections. Lekera okwesiganga ekintu ekitibwa connections. Kubanga we live in a generation where so many young people have credentials, they have academic credentials, but they are doing a lot of nothing. So many of us are into depression, we are into stress, we are looking for jobs because we are waiting for connections. At times we have failed to start small because we live in a world that is very connected. Connections. And the reason why abantu bangi n'emikisa gyaffe gisibwa womanya ekintu ekiri mu connections. No one, we have to know God also uses people to take us to our blessings. Katonda akozesa abantu okutuconnectinga. Naye oluusi w'okozesa omwoyo w'amagezi, you will realize wazaalibwa n'omukisa go naye woba weegerezaako n'ogezaako. No, I'm going to give practical examples to young people on this channel. And I believe by the end of the video, you will wake up and know, quit trusting in connections. We live in a world, just like I'm telling us, we think everything is about connections, and the reason most of our heavens are held, because buli kimu oliawo connections. Naye nga tomanyi naye wazaalibwa n'omukisa go, nga wagenze no applying omulimu, nga wagenze no looking for opportunities, nga wagenze, you can also get a job, you can get an opportunity, you can get work because you have gotten certain wisdom. No, there are things I tell people. Bible gamba mu Psalms 118 verse 8. It is better to trust in God than put your confidence in people. Inti kisingako okwesiga Katonda okusinga okwesiga abantu. Kubanga n'omuntu oyo ayagala okuconnectinga oluusi ayinza okulemererwa nga tasobola naye nga gwe amaaso go gonna gatadde ku muntu oyo. And it is why I'm speaking to young people in this generation who have their credentials but are always oliawe wako otudde wamala dde okusoma, toyina mulimu olinda connection. Because there are things I'll give you that are so biblical. The Bible says in Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 12, I'll bless the work of your hand. Ekyamateeka 28:12 Mukama atugamba anaawanga emirimu gy'emikono gyaffe omukisa. God did not say he will bless your job. And the reason, if you do not have a job, look for work. Kuba Mukama talina kyagenda kuteekako mukisa ng'okeera kutuula, ng'okeera kubeera ku ssimu yo, ng'okeera kunywa mwenge. There are things we have to use wisdom if we are going to get far. Mukama talina kyagenda kuwa mukisa ng'okeera kubeera ku ssimu yo, ng'okeera kutuula ku firimu, ng'okeera kulaba movie. What is God going to bless when you just wake up to be on your phone? No, these are things I tell young people. We are so full of the blame game. Sina capital. Naye ng'olina ssente za data owa buli lunaku okubeera ku ssimu naye ng'eza capital toziina. And these are the things that are eye-openers. I want to encourage younger people in our generation to arise and wake up, because at times people are in severe depression, abantu bawaddemu emaanyi, bawaddemu essuubi, but because you are not taking action. People are living depressed because they have no jobs. If you don't have a job, look for work. Nga wenkugamba Bible gamba Mukama anaawa emikono, like the work of your hands. He did not say he will bless your job. If you don't have a job, look for work. And it is why I want to arise a giant in some people out there to know that you can start small Because I tell people we are so omanyi siina capital nengo ina sente za data eza buli lunaku nenga capital yogamba tokola kitomuyina. And these are the things that affect so many of us as young people. Notandika bandoga bansadaka bamponga, but you wake up every day to take waraji. You wake up every day to be on TV. You wake up every day to be on your phone. What is God going to bless when you wake up every day to sit, to sleep? You know? And it is what I'm telling people. Most of our heavens are held because we are waiting for connections. And it is what you are not going to find work when you are on your job. You are not going to find a job or work ngoli ku simu yo. Ngokera kulaba TV, ngokera kulaba filimu. It is why I'm encouraging us, let us go out there and look for work if you do not have a job. And look for work. Yes, because there is something I tell people, start small. Bana abana betulaba osomyo ina degree nechinche ngamba abana mu university. Degree yo tekuwesa kitiibwa. Masters yo ngoli mu kusabiriza. You know, because there are things we take for granted and they are affecting the entire generation, and we are just looking on. At the end of the day, bano bebali mu kintu and nolusinga abantu bekolera. But because you do not want to arise, you do not want to get that giant in you and start small. No, there are things I tell people. Ojja kwekwasa abantu nga ebakuwonga nga ebakusaddaka, but as long as you are doing nothing about your life, you will remain in the blame game as people are going on because they know certain truth. You know, it is what I'm telling you. If you have no job, look for work. Because there are things that I can give people that are so practical. Naye tuli mu mulembe oli ajja kugamba omwana we Makerere bamulaba batya nga asiika chipsi, omwana we Makerere nga asiika paani, bamulaba batya nga asaawa olujja. Kankubuulira ojja kuba mwana we Makerere ng'olina degree yo naye nga tekuweesa kitiibwa, naye ng'akeera okusiika chipsi ayina 10, ng'akeera okusiika paani ayina 10. Ng'akeera okutunda ennyaanya ayina 10 naye nga gwe weeyita mwana wa Makerere. Nga you have a degree that you are not proud of. You know? No, these are things I tell young people. Because at the end of the day, all you want is money to sustain yourself. You cannot tell me you are a boy, you are a big man, you have finished campus, and you're depending on your mother, yet you can work. If you don't have a job, look for work. You know, it is what I'm telling us. You are not going to find work ng'osiiba waka kubeera ku simu, ng'osiiba waka kubeera ku TV. You know, as you move out there, no mulimu ebintu bye ngamba abantu. Genda okonkone ku kikomera ky'omugagga omugambe nsobola okusaayira. Omugagga oyo yajja okubuuza wasoma ki akuwa omulimu because you are out there. Naye buli w'obeera mu nnyumba, buli w'obeera ku ssimu, tewali ky'ogenda kuteekako mukisa Mukama kyagenda kuwa mukisa. Baba Mukama tasobola keera kuwa data like kuwa mukisa muntu atalina kyakola. You know? And these are the things I'm telling young people. Oli ajja mugamba genda osa bandaba batya nga nsaawa olujja. Bakulaba batya naye ng'oli awo osabiriza. It is something that drains me a lot in our generation. Oliawo osabiriza, akulaba ku kkubo ng'osaawa alina kyakuwa. And these are things I tell young people. At the end of the day, ebbeeyi yo tekuliisa mmere nga you are just asking for money, nga you are just begging people for money. And the reason I want to arise the giant in you, to go out in the world and find work. You know? No, there are things I tell people. Tandika oba tolina capital omutwalo ogwo gwokosa ogwa data, gula muwogo wa 200 ogule butto otandika okusiika muwogo. No, there are things I tell people, like, we have to use wisdom. Genda ogule paani, akawunga ka muwogo kilo ya mmeka. Genda ogule akawunga ka muwogo, paani ogule obwenvu ogule butto otandike empola. Even you may think nti nine bay, give to someone as all of bukutundiro, or you have a sister who goes to work, let them sell those pancakes for you. But you are not at home doing nothing. You are not staying at home on your phone. You know? No, there are things buy tomatoes. Because there are things we take for granted, but people are making money and because we do not use wisdom. Genda ogule nnyaanya omanye nfunako mmeka. There are things genda osiike lumonde omutunde ojemu profit. Because there are things we have to know. You won't be proud of yourself nga buli ssaawa bakuwa buli ssaawa osabiriza naye ng'olina obwongo ng'osobola okukola. No, there are things I tell young people. Go to town, look for clothes. Wotunulira ekibuga buli ssaawa ze tugenda mu kibuga engoye zibeera ku ssente ziri different. Ku makya zibeera ku ssente bwe ziti. At this genda ofuneyo obugoye bwo ne obeera neyo 9,000 shillings. You will get 3 dresses. Ogenda obutunde gumu kitundu, you will get money. Nenga you are not there. You're not just seated on your phone because you have no work. No, there are things I tell people, as long as we do not arise, you are going to be in the blame game. Ojja kunyigira abantu, mulimu ekintu kye ngamba abantu, obwavu buleeta entondo. Obwavu buleeta entondo, obwavu buleetera okunyigira abantu, nera nze tewali anjagala, abafamire bankyawa, lwakuba toyagala kukola. No, there are things we have to know. Mulimu ebintu nga woobimanya. You learn, like you use wisdom. Because buli wotabeera na ssente buli omu oba omunyiigira. Buli omu abeera kuba toyagala kukola. Because you don't want to think, and the reason I tell young people, whenever you do not have work or you don't have a job, you are so full of lies. No, there are things I tell young people out of experience. Ojja kuba n'obulimba bungi ate nga kyekyo onoonya ssente. N'ofominga bisitole kuba toyina ssente zo. And these are the things I tell young people. Lwakuba toyagala kukola. And when you read things in the Bible, Sulemani yabyogerako. There are things that are so practical. Nga togenda kunyigira abantu, mbuza abantu tebaagala lwakuba sina ssente. Nedda mwebiri mu Bible. Nga ne wonoonyigira abantu ne mu Bible mwebiri. The Bible tells you, wealth brings many friends, but a poor man's friends desert him. Mbu buli w'obeera omugagga, obeera n'emikwano mingi naye otabana tewali akwagala. Sulemani ye yabyogera mu Bible. There are things in the Bible that will teach you to use wisdom. Olekerawo okunyigira mikwano gyo ate abantu bankyawa lwakuba omulimu gwagenda. Ensi eyagala ayina. Woba toyina tewali agenda kwagala. And the reason you have to use wisdom and work hard. You know? There are things I tell young people, when you read in the Bible, it says, better to be poor than a liar. Omwavu akira omulimba. Buli wobeera omwavu ogenda kubeera n'ebisitole by'opanga lwakuba oyagala ssente. Naye nga kye kikuleetera obulimba. And the reason I tell young people, it is why you have to arise and look for work if you do not have a job. Buy a slasher. Oba otya okulaba ku kkubo genda okongona ebikomera by'abantu tandika mbola gula oluso ogenda osaawe obuuze omuntu sookusayira olujja. You begin small. As you have that slasher, you will get money ezigula akuuma ng'osobola okusaayisa n'akuuma akalimu amafuta naye ng'otandise mpola totudde butuuzi. Abantu abasinga okeera kutuula okeera kunywa mwenge omanyi bandoga bamponga. But what are you doing about it? Tewali akeeza kutuuza ng'osobola okukeera n'ogenda n'onoonya ekyokukola. No, there are things I tell people. Mulimu ebintu, however much you will be in the blame game, you will live in bondage your entire life because you have not known certain truths that will set you free. There are things we have to learn out of wisdom. Buy a hoe. Genda olime, genda olimire abantu. Tekina kye kikujjako nti oli mwana wa Makerere olima. Oyo gw'olimira yagenda okuwa omulimu. No, there is something I can share out of a testimony. Okulaga bano abaana b'e Makerere nti bo bakola biki. There is a young lady I met at a university fellowship. You know, omuwala ono n'angamba, Madam Veronica, nze njagala nnyo ekintu ky'okwoza engoye. Naye nga she has a degree in mass communication she has done for 4 years. Naye n'angamba buli wenjoza engoye anti wange n'atandika okunsekerera, omwana w'e Makerere ayoza atya engoye. Jjukira abeera ne anti ewaka talina kyamuwa. Ne mugamba, at the end of the day, do not look at your auntie. Oba oyagala okwoza engoye zooze. And this girl told me, I'm looking at making business cards. I told her I will sow that seed in you. Ne mukolera business card 10. Naziteeka ku social media, naziteeka ku LinkedIn, naziteeka ku Facebook. Nangamba kati wenjogerera kati ali wala. Natandika okufuna abazungu abamuyita jangu onjoleze. In fact, she told me she began small. N'ateekako omuntu omulala gwayoza naye. She reached a point where she began n'agula ne machines. Omulimu gwenjogera gwakola kati ogwa PR. Omuzungu eyagumuwa yamubuuza naye nga yamusanga mukooza ngoye. N'amubuuza wasoma ki? Kati she has 2 dry cleaners. Nenga she has her job. And that is a testimony. Okulaga bano abeeyita ab'emakerere. You can start small and then you get to that white collar job because you are out there doing something. You know? But whenever you keep to yourself, no one is going to know nti wasoma. No, there are things I tell people. Oyinza okuba oli ku kyalo toyina mulimu. Tambula ku factory mu kyalo. You know, ku kyalo obabuuze muyinayo omulimu. Talk about yourself. For example, you're in S6 VAC, you're in S, you don't have a job. Tambula mu factory okonkone obuuza abantu. That is how you'll get a job. Naye kati wonoobeera ewaka n'owa factory ne wanaaba alina gwanoonya n'amanya atya nti weetaaga omulimu. Naye oli awo otudde olinze connection. And those are the things I tell people. You are waiting for connection. Naye nga naawe connection osoojeefunira kuba wazaalibwa n'omukisa go. There is an example I give out of my personal life, like work experience. I have done very many international contracts without any connection. Kuba Katonda amanyi wazaalibwa n'omukisa go. No, there are things I tell people. You have that phone. Even nowadays, MCB akutambula nti onoonya mirimu. You go and Google numbers of companies you want to work with. Ezo numbers. No, there are things I share out of my life experience as I help young people. Veronica namanya ebintu byenjagala, njagala abaana, njagala interpretation, nga ngenda ku internet, I Google oba nemanya kangugulinga amasomero genjagala okusomesaamu. You know? And I used to send my email, like my CV to their addresses. Ba mulimu companies ngosobola okuteekako CV. Even some international schools called me after years. Nenga nabiteekako dda. Olina gamba tulabye CV yo, there is an opening going omulimu. Jangu okole. Nengenda nengamba interpretation companies nemba kubira essimu nenfuna neyogerako, my name is so and so, I did French, I like interpreting. Nebagamba tewali mulimu saawa eno, but when there is an opening tujja kukubira. Nerogeno after years banange wano there is interpretation work, can you do it? Because you are out there, tolinze connection. Chengamba linda connection nenga nawe wefaako. Because connection tegenda kusanga ng'otudde butuuzi. Ezo sente zoyina eza data. You go and Google organizations. No, there are things I tell. Dream big. Tewali kikutiisa. Oba genda oteekeyo gwe totya. Kubanga wazaalibwa n'omukisa go. Nga togenda kunaaba ddagala. Nti okuwa omulimu. Kubanga wazaalibwa n'omukisa go. And this is what I tell people. Lwaki olowooza nti okunaaba obuddagala bwe bukuleetera tebiriiyo. You are born with your blessing, and the reason you have to try out your opportunities. You know, the Bible says in Proverbs 10:22, the blessing of God makes rich and adds no sorrow. Nti omukisa gwa Mukama, you know, teguyina buyini kante gwe gugaggawaza. Kati oba azaalibwa n'omukisa gwo, lwaki olowooza olina gujja mu jjajja, olina gujja mu kunaaba ddagala? Oguyina. And the reason you see, people will go for interviews, they'll apply for jobs, nga talina gw'amanyi afune omulimu. Because you are born with your blessing. Nga toyina connection gy'omanyi mu company, naye n'ofuna omulimu n'ogenda ku merit, naye nga gwa gwesabidde. And this is what I'm telling people, quit buli kimu connection. N'obeeraawo nga you are held, you are in bondage, there is nothing you can do for yourself because you are looking at connections. No, there are things I tell people. As long as you stay in your comfort zone, because there are certain comfort zones we are not proud of as young people. There are certain comfort zones, they may seem comfort zones, but you are not proud of them as a young person. You have a degree in law. Do not first wait for a connection. You go and look for law firms. You go and enter there. Talk about yourself. Where you get a kondi mampita gano gemanya gangen. Present yourself there. Oli ajja kugamba tulekere CV yo. In case of an opening, something will come. No, there are things I tell you. You have done engineering, you are waiting for connections. Try on your own. Wachiri kachigane, nenga wachiri ogezezzaako. You know? You are a teacher, you qualified as a teacher. Osiba ku kyalo kutuula, tambula mu masomero, tandika naga ku kyalo kyo jaga tolina transport. Tandika ogende weeyogereko, my name is Sanso, nakola obusomesa. Omuntu ajja kugamba leka CV yo. And that is how you'll get the opportunity when it comes. Nenga totudde butuuzi nti olinda connection. These are things I tell you. Connections no zireesa obuzibu. Olinaga connection neetaaga million bweti. Nenga naawe osobola okwefunira omulimu go. Because you do not want to use wisdom. Tomanyi nti naawe osobola okwegenderayo n'ogufuna. Kwa wazaalibwa n'omukisa go naye olinda connection. No, I tell young people, buli omu alina omukisa gwe. And when you try it out, wekigaana kireke, totogamba nti olina rejection. Because no one, let me give an example. Veronica, I put my projects in very many places. If it has not worked out, why do I say how? Omuntu kikyakumanyiko ku rejectinga. Taina kyakumanyiko ku rejectinga. Even mulimu abakuddamu n'akugamba omanye ebintu byo birungi, but if there is an opening we shall consider you. Mulimu abasirika. But that does not mean that you are rejected. Mukama ayinza okuba even amanyi oba olugero tayagala ddugula kubanga amanyi he knows what is standing behind it. N'alukwata. Gwe n'otandika nina rejection. Who tells you have rejection? No, Veronica, I can testify that businesses I do in jewelry. Osobola okutunda obuntu ematugga ne bugaana n'ogenda mu kibuga n'ofuna kiralu. Nenga ssente z'obadde obutunda ematugga zibadde za layisi. Nenga baganya obbugula n'otandika nga olina rejection. Nenga tomanyi Mukama abukuumye alina wayagala ogenda obutunde ku ssente eza waggulu. And that is what I tell young people. You are not rejected. Rejection is for redirection. If something has failed, try something else. You know? Tewemalamu manyi togwamu ssuubi. Omanyi ndiko rejection. No! If a door closes, look for another one. You know? It is what we call the power of resilience and being a positive thinker. If an opportunity closes, accept it and look for another one, because there is always light at the end of the tunnel. No, there are things I tell people. We all make mistakes. We all go through failure. But nothing is a mistake when you have learned the lessons from your mistake. A mistake is no longer a mistake when you learn the lessons from your mistake. You know? Nothing is called failure, you know? Like buli kimu tulina okweyoola. Oyinza okuba okubiddwa kyembambalaga Bible egamba mu ngero 2:16 nti omutuukirivu agwa emirundi 7 naye ayimuka. Ffenna tugwa, ffenna tukubibwa. N'abagagga be tulaba bakola bizinesi ne zigaana naye amaanyi gali mu kweyoola, amaanyi gali mu kwekuŋŋaanya, amaanyi gali mu kuyimuka. It is what I tell people. You can allow your failures to be excuses of hopelessness, you know, to be, or you can use them, you know, as stepping stones to your success. You know, you can learn to learn the lessons and move forward, or you can allow them to be excuses of hopelessness, and they hold your entire life. Rakuba oliawo nakola ensobi kino kyagaana, and that is what I tell people, you know. Nothing is called failure when you have a choice to do something about it. You know, that choice is always in our hands. It will only be a mistake when you have nga gwajikiriza okusigala wansi. But when you have a choice to get out of that failure, it is no longer a failure, because everyone fails. Even the most powerful people, they fail. But it is trying again and again and again and again. It is not losing hope, you know. It is knowing there is always something better, you know. Lekera okwemalamu amaanyi lwakuba kino kyagaana omanyi ndiko ekikolimo. No, not everything is a curse. You know, there are certain things we can use as stepping stones to take us to our next level. It is why you can choose failure, mistakes to give you identity, or you can choose them as like stepping stones to take you to your other level in life. Tewali agenda kugaana kuva mu depression nga gwogambye nti ndi mu depression. Nze nanyi simanya ndi munaku. Tewali agenda kujja munaku nga gwasazeewo. It is why I'm encouraging young people, arise. Obera ku simu eyo genda ogugulinge companies kuliko emails, talk about yourself. Tobajja kukiriza mu offices z'abantu naye mulimu companies nga zirina emails. Talk about yourself, teekayo ebintu byo naye nga tolinda connection. Newe olinda connection naye nga naawe olina kyeweekolera naye nga totadde bwesigwa bo mu baana b'abantu. Bible yetugamba mu Yeremiya 17:5 akolimiddwa yeesiga omwana w'omuntu. You know, that he who trusts in us, you are cursed when you put your confidence in people. Even at times people may want to help you, but they may not be able. And the reason you also have to try your bless. I won't call it luck, because there's a difference between luck and a blessing. We all have a blessing, and if you try that blessing, you will get your blessing. No, there are things I have done very many contracts I did not get with any connection. Nga ngenda ku internet nengugulinga company. Veronica Nyizo gamba njagala genda kwogera n'abaana ndejje. Sina gwe mmanyi ndejje. Nengenda nengugulinga ni PR wendejje namba kwerine neyogerako. My name is Sanso. Ogenda okula what do you do? Nalabe ebintu byo ku YouTube nakuyita n'oyogera n'abaana. Nogenda masomero gotamanyi. And that is because you are out there doing something, but you do not need a connection. Nengo oyinza okubeera wano nogamba nyagenda gayaza high school omanyi ninayo senga wange nga ne sengaawo ayinza obutakuyamba sinti tayagala kuyamba naye mwana wa muntu ayinza oba yagakuteeka nenga opportunity eganye nengo osogenda n'ogyesabira nga toyina connection n'ogifuna. You know, it is what I tell people, stop quitting in believing in connections. Connections. And your heavens are held. Oliawo wesiba, oliawo toyina kyalikola kubo olowooza mu connections afuuka connection. You know? And it is what I'm telling young people. You have your blessing, and when you try it out, go and Google about sente zoine za data. Genda ogugulinge ku organizations, genda ogugulinge ku companies, teekayo ebintu byo olusi kubeerako emails osobola okuteekako CV. Funa amasimu kube simu weeyogereko, my name is so and so. Omuntu ajja kulaba presentation yo ng'eri smart, wabaawo omulimu asobola okuyita kwa yakuwulirako ku simu. And that is how, Veronica, I got all my work opportunities without any connection. Now we live in a generation, everything is about connections. Or to the toina chokola, you can't start small because you are waiting for connections. You are running from church to church, prophet to prophet, ne prophet yakuliako saint. There are things I tell young people, arise that giant in you. Omwana omulenzi, genda ogula like this machine akasala enviiri, genda osala abantu enviiri. No, there are things go to schools and ask, can I be coming here to trim hair? Nengo oliawo otudde waka maama yakuwa emmere yakuliisa. Nengo oli musajja mukulu oganya okukola. Olinda connection. Etagenda kujja. You know? And these are things I'm telling young people. Genda oyoleza abantu engoye, oyinza okuba olina degree. Ogenda koza engoye ofuna omutwalo gumu. Ogule muwogo, ogule butto, osike muwogo otandike okufuna amagoba. Naye nga totudde butuuzi. Because God is not going to bless your hands when you are just on your phone, when you wake up to watch TV, when you wake up to watch movies. There is nothing God is going to bless. You know? And the reason I'm encouraging young people, arise that giant in you. You know? Look for work. Nine chinche ngamba abana. Obugagga bw'omuzaddewo si bwe bubo. Naawe olina okukola obubo. And if you do not learn how to work, nga gwe kyomanyi kubeera ku TV, kubeera ku simu, kubeera ku internet, ne muzaddewo ne wanaakuwa property, ogenda gitunda. Gwe kyomanyi kubeera ku simu yo. And these are things I tell young people in our generation. Learn how to work. Work is a blessing from God. You know? Because God said He will bless the work of our hands. If you do not have a job, look for work. He did not say He will bless the work of our job, but He said our hands. Chovoya buli wota nga Mukama talina kyateekako mukisa togenda kubana ba talina kyateekako mukisa kati anaaguteekawa ng'okera kunywa walaji ng'okera ku kulaba TV, ng'okera kuba ku ssimu yo, wo wanaateeka omukisa. Naye gwe keera oteekewo ovakadde w'omutunde, keera oteekewo ajja kuteekako omukisa kubanga yagamba emirimu gyaffe anaagiwanga omukisa. Naye buli wookeera okunywa walagi, buli wookeera okutuula talina kyagenda kuteekako omukisa. You know, and this is my whole message to that generation. Arise that giant in you. Learn how to work. Look for work if you do not have a job. You know, quit waiting for connections. Try. You are born with your blessing. Do not wait for people to connect you. You can also connect yourself. Be a smart person. You know, present yourself. Go and talk about yourself in companies. No, there are things I tell people. Veronica, I don't know how I did, but kubukalukalu wange. Ng'onsanga mu company, ne bakubuuza oyina appointment, ne njogera amazima mbutuufu siyina appointment naye nzze kulaba HR. Oluusi ne bakugoba n'okugoba ne bagamba neekomawo luno. Naye ng'ogezezzaako. Mulimu abamu nga omugamba amazima ku gate ya Sikaari omanyi nzze kulaba HR naye siyina appointment. Ajja kugamba yingira ogenda omulabe. Kwa nebyo nabirabanga. Naye nga toyina gw'omanyi mu kitongole naye kubeera smart bukalukalu nakumanya kiki oyagala. You know, naye abantu abasinga twetya tetwekkiririzaamu. And that's why you see you are sitting with your papers and waiting for connections. Learn how to arise that giant in yourself. Believe in yourself. Genda oteeke ebipapula, genda weeyogereko nga teweetaga na connection. Wekiba kiganye kireke, naye waaki waliwo wekikkiriza. Because you have your blessing, and the reason do not sit. Arise that giant in you. You know, go out and look for opportunities than being on your phone. Start small. Esente z'oteeka mu data oyinza okuzinvestinga n'otandika mpola n'oyiiya n'okolanga mpola. Because God has said he will bless the work of your hand. And as long as you wake up every day to be on your phone, you are going to be in stress, in depression, and being angry at everyone. Thank you very much for listening to me, and have a beautiful Thursday. Veronica, peace, blessing.